Good afternoon, everybody. What I'd like to do today is actually walking you through the opportunity of hosted collaboration for service providers. In fact, if you think about it, what we heard today was extremely interesting, but there is a kind of feeling that all of the examples and the business cases and the use cases are related to all of us as kind of consumers of these services. Now, in reality, at the same time, most of us are actually employees of companies. And what we would like to do is fundamentally to being able to use the same kind of technologies that we use when we are citizens, when we are private users into the enterprise. This is causing a big revolution in IT. You heard it today from Vodafone very, very clearly. So I'd like to articulate and contribute to the conversation today with 3 big points. One is, what is the opportunity for telcos to get into this market? Second is, it's about standardizing services. So not a system integration business model, but moving away to a more standard, in line with a telco business model kind of approach. And third, I'd like to just slightly touch on the underlying network and data center implications that will actually impact all the way, not just the architecture, but your operations as well. Now, relative to point number 1, which is really what's the opportunity, it's about the end users and what they want to do. And it's about winning their hearts and minds. And what I thought I would do, as it's very, very late in the afternoon and all of us are pretty tired, is to use a small video, it's 90 seconds, to actually show you what is happening out there in the enterprise market, in the business market, now that we're having this consumerization approach. So it's about the experience that together we can offer to the end user. And what's going on out there is fundamentally that the end users want to use these new technologies. And as you heard from the CIO of Vodafone today, is about standardizing on those experiences, but enabling the employees to actually do this. Because communication, when you get and when you become an employee, when you go to work, means collaboration and unleashing the power of collaboration. Now, there is a very vast market out there, and I'll show you numbers in a second, but fundamentally, the starting point is that everything will get mobile. Everything will become mobile, and that's the real starting point. The other thing is that most of the lines out there are going to go to IP communications and are going to go from TDM to IP. But then there is a whole lot of other services that, if you think about it, are either on-premise or in the cloud more and more, especially the collaboration. But think about the coming revolution, the enterprise social software, whereby most of the enterprises will need to move to a different level of collaboration and information sharing. And information management is going to be one of the biggest challenges out there for all the companies. Now, it's evident that the service providers, the telcos, have an incredible potential in this play to tap into this market, because you guys can actually glue up what's on-premise and what's in the cloud to sustain an end-to-end user experience that the business users want to have, a billable, a business class experience. Now, we did a study in Cisco to understand, based on a different segmentation if you want, where and what kind of approach makes sense, because if you think about it, every kind of customer type has different needs. And it's clearly, at the very low end, most of the time cost that drives the market and the buying criteria. However, if you look out here, especially in the middle of the market, there is a very strong demand for full support play still in a kind of a hosted model. What does it mean? It means that not everybody has the power of spending $1 billion of CapEx in IT. Most enterprises and businesses out there are experiencing, due to all the economic issues that we're going through these days, the need to move from CapEx to OpEx. So we're fundamentally moving pretty quickly to an on-demand kind of business model. And people are searching for price per user per month and flexible consumption models. Now, what does this mean in terms of the opportunity that you can go after? Is an immense market. Around 20 billions of billions of dollars of opportunity, and here I also give you a breakdown. It's quite surprising, but not so much when you think about it, that a lot of the business here is going to be in either virtualizing existing services and actually using the power of the cloud to have more flexible services than the traditional TDM ones. But also there's an enormous opportunity just in plain replacement of the existing install base into a hosted model. And based on all the analysts that you see over there, the analyst community believe that around 40% of the entire install base will move over time to a hosted model. That is, of course, enormous and justifies the size of the opportunity. Now, what's the engine of the business case? Well, it's actually explained over there. If you think about an in-source on-premise solution, fundamentally you end up with a cost of capital which is in the range of the $45 per user. Now, if you think about the market, you're more expert than I am in pricing and price points. Today, it's quite in the range of the $2.53 per user per month to offer a voice service. So clearly, the big opportunity is in adding new revenue streams according to the kind of service continuum that I show you that is going to make the business case more valuable. However, just comparing the two business models, you see that there is quite a big advantage in the order of the 40% of savings of the customer. Of course, you're giving away the control of your single roadmaps, but you get and you gain the power of the telco, the experience to migrate as well as from TDM to IP, as well as the possibility of using things like fixed mobile convergence that are fundamentally almost impossible to do by yourself as a business. Especially in terms of pricing, you can introduce very innovative solutions, not to mention all the others value-add opportunities such as web collaboration, all the way to enterprise social software. That's an example. If you want, it's a bit of an extreme example, but it tells you that this is absolutely real. This is a big case study. Of course, it's anonymized, but this is a major financial organization that we actually won together with a big partner, and a hosted solution is one of those cases where most of the business case is related to migrating from TDM to IP, as well as moving away a lot of the IT infrastructure that is handling a do-it-yourself solution. You see the savings are just enormous, almost close to $200 million. Let me go to the final point, which is the so what, in terms of the infrastructure and also the processes, NMS, OSS capabilities. And actually, I am totally in line with what we heard today and you guys voting in the fact that the introduction of the services can only be successful if the telco is addressing the organizational and NMS OSS problem. Why? Because what you have to do in this new world is not positioning like a CPE, like an access routers over there at a customer site and managing it for 3 years without doing anything, which is your dream, and it's the dream of the typical head of operation in a service provider. But actually the money comes from touching the customers multiple times and adding new services. It's flexed up and flexed down. So it's not so different than what you've been doing in the last many years. It's just 1,000 times faster. So this requires something completely different or evolutionary, I would say, in terms of the infrastructure. In that, these applications have to run. And if you heard actually Albert Hitchcock of Vodafone, he fundamentally spin that kind of concept. You need an IT infrastructure which is SOA from an IT perspective, but is then connected to the rest of the IP NGN, and it even has the right IMS hooks to work with the existing legacy, so that what you can do is you can manage these services in a dynamic manner, and not just provisioning the end users and the services, but also provisioning the IT resources that are required to make this service work. That is the only way that you can actually handle fast time to market, but also a decent level of operation. Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is having multiple silos with the result of being fundamentally not capable of addressing the customer needs in terms of speeds, of reaction, in terms of top-class customer service, as well as the more silo you have in the network, and the more it's difficult to introduce and evolve the service itself. So just to recap, it's really about three things. It's winning the hearts and minds of the customers, which you can do if you allow the business users, your business users, to use the same devices that they use when they are at home. Bring your own device, and you can differentiate there. You can actually win their hearts and minds because you allow that. The second is standardizing according to a smarter infrastructure, where the big new is the, if you want, extension or merge and blur of the IT domain, the data center and cloud infrastructure with the existing IP NGN, and of course having the smartest possible orchestration and OSS. And third, it's really about winning this market with the right go-to-market model, because selling these services requires, of course, the right ability to consult also the end users, which is actually the next frontier of the service providers. They go to market of this service, and how do they go about them? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabio.